Fleet Commander HFY stood on the bridge of his warship, watching the small blue planet grow larger on the main screen. His 4 eyes studied the world that would soon belong to the Zephyrian hegemony. It looked peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over blue oceans and green continents. "Sir, we are receiving more radio signals from the planet," his communications officer reported. The young Zephyrian's scales were bright purple with excitement. "The humans are still broadcasting their primitive entertainment programs." HFY clicked his mandibles in amusement. The humans had been sending radio waves into space for over a century, and those signals had traveled far enough for the hegemony to detect them. The transmissions showed a species that fought constantly among themselves, using crude weapons and burning fossil fuels. Perfect targets for conquest. "What do their latest signals tell us?" HFY asked. "The same as before, sir. They show humans fighting wars with metal projectiles and chemical explosives. Their most advanced weapons seem to be nuclear bombs, but even those are simple compared to our plasma cannons. Their space travel is limited to their own solar system, and they still use rocket fuel to reach their moon." HFY nodded. The hegemony had conquered 43 worlds in the last 50 years. Most civilizations surrendered quickly once they saw Zephyrian technology: plasma weapons that could melt through any known metal, shields that deflected energy attacks, ships that could travel between stars in days instead of years. The humans would surrender within hours of seeing what they faced. "Sir, we are detecting one of their vessels ahead," the sensor officer announced. "It appears to be a cargo ship, moving between their planet and a small space station." HFY looked at the screen. The human ship was tiny compared to his warships, maybe 50 meters long. It had no visible weapons, and seemed to be carrying supplies. "Disable it. We will examine these humans up close before we land on their world." The Zephyrian weapons locked onto the human ship. A single plasma burst hit its engines, causing them to spark and go dark. The ship drifted helplessly in space, sending out distress signals in multiple human languages. "Sir, they are trying to communicate with us," the communications officer said. "Put it through the translator." The main screen showed the interior of the human ship. 5 humans in simple blue uniforms were standing in what looked like their control room. They appeared to be mammals, with pale skin and hair on their heads. They looked small and fragile compared to the armored Zephyrians. One of the humans, an older male with gray hair, stepped forward. "Please don't hurt us," he said, his voice shaking with fear. "We are just carrying food and medical supplies to our space station. We have families, children." HFY studied the humans carefully. They looked terrified, exactly as he expected. Their eyes were wide, and they were sweating despite the cool air of their ship. One of the females was crying. "You are now prisoners of the Zephyrian hegemony," HFY announced. "Your world will become part of our empire. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." The human captain fell to his knees. "Please, we surrender completely. We cannot fight you. Your technology is far beyond ours. Just please spare our families." "Sir," the sensor officer interrupted, "we are detecting movement from the planet. It looks like their military ships are powering down and returning to their bases." HFY smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "They are already giving up. Bring the human prisoners aboard. We will learn what we need to know about their planet from them." The human ship was pulled into the cargo bay of HFY's flagship. The 5 humans were escorted to holding cells by Zephyrian soldiers. They did not resist. They answered every question quickly and honestly, providing detailed information about Earth's major cities, population centers, and government structures. "Our planet has about 8 billion people," the human captain explained during his interrogation. "We have many different nations, but none of them have weapons that could harm your ships. Our most powerful bombs would barely scratch your shields." "What about your military?" HFY asked. "We will order them to stand down immediately. There is no point in fighting a war we cannot win. Humans are practical people. We know when we are beaten." Within 6 hours, Earth's governments were broadcasting surrender messages to the Zephyrian fleet. World leaders appeared on screens, formally giving up their planets and asking only for mercy for their populations. Military bases went silent. Nuclear weapons were deactivated. The entire planet seemed to collapse in defeat before the aliens had even landed. Vex High watched the surrender broadcasts with satisfaction. This was exactly how conquests were supposed to go. The humans had seen Zephyrian power, and wisely chose to submit rather than face destruction. "Sir, should we begin landing operations?" his tactical officer asked. "Yes. Start with their major population centers. Establish processing centers for human relocation. We will move them to work camps in the northern continent while our mining operations begin." "What about resistance movements?" "What resistance?" Vex High laughed. "Look at them. They surrendered their entire planet in less than a day. These humans are cowards who would rather live as slaves than die as fighters. We will have this planet fully under control within a week." The first landing ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, carrying thousands of Zephyrian soldiers and occupation equipment. They landed in the empty fields outside major human cities, meeting no opposition. The humans had even cleared landing zones for them, marking safe areas with bright lights. As Vex High prepared to join the ground forces, he felt proud of his quick victory. The Hegemony High Command would be pleased. Another world added to their empire with minimal casualties. The humans would provide excellent workers for the mining colonies, and their planet had rich deposits of the rare metals the Hegemony needed for their technology. "Sir, the ground forces report that humans are actually helping them locate resource deposits and population centers," the communications officer reported. "They seem eager to cooperate." "Of course they are," Vex High replied. "They know that cooperation means survival. Begin full planetary occupation procedures." As his shuttle descended toward Earth's surface, Vex High looked forward to claiming his prize. The blue planet would become another Zephyrian colony, and the humans would learn to serve their new masters. It was the natural order of the galaxy. The strong conquered the weak, and the weak served the strong. He had no way of knowing that the human radio signals his fleet had detected were over a century old. The occupation of Earth was going better than Fleet Commander Vex High had ever imagined. 3 days after the first landing ships touched down, human governments were competing to see who could surrender more completely. City mayors were personally escorting Zephyrian survey teams to the best locations for mining operations. Military officers were handing over detailed maps of their own defense installations. Vex High walked through the processing center that had been established outside New York City. Thousands of humans stood in neat lines, waiting patiently to be cataloged and assigned to work details. They showed no signs of anger or rebellion. Many were actually smiling and chatting with each other, as if they were waiting in line for entertainment rather than enslavement. "Sir, the efficiency reports are remarkable," reported Captain Zil Nex, his ground operations commander. "Humans are voluntarily reporting for processing. We expected to spend weeks hunting down hidden populations, but they are bringing their families to us." "What about their military equipment?" Vex High asked. "Completely abandoned, sir. We have found nuclear missile silos with the doors left open and the weapons powered down. Their military bases were evacuated so quickly that soldiers left their meals half-eaten on tables." Vex High nodded approvingly. The humans understood the reality of their situation. They knew that cooperation was their only chance for survival. But as the days passed, small details began to trouble him. The humans being processed were mostly ordinary workers, farmers, and merchants. The scientists, doctors, engineers, and teachers that every civilization needed were mysteriously absent from the prisoner populations. When Zephyrian soldiers searched universities and research centers, they found them completely empty, as if entire academic communities had simply vanished. "Where are your scientists?" Vex High asked during an interrogation with a captured human official named Mayor Johnson. "They evacuated when they heard you were coming," Johnson replied with a helpful smile. "Smart people know when to run, I guess. Most of them probably went into hiding in the mountains or desert areas. And your military leaders? Same thing. Cowards. All of them. They abandoned their posts and left us ordinary folks to deal with the situation. Typical politicians and generals, if you ask me," Vex-Hi found this explanation reasonable, but something felt wrong. Earth had a population of 8 billion people, but the processing centers were only handling about 2 million humans. Even accounting for people hiding in remote areas, the numbers did not match. Another strange pattern emerged when human resistance groups began contacting Zephyrian forces. Instead of fighting, these groups offered to help locate hidden human settlements and resource deposits. "Commander, we have received another communication from human rebels," Captain Zilnex reported during their morning briefing. "They say there is a secret military bunker hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains. They are offering to guide our forces to it." "Rebels are helping us find their own people?" "Yes, sir. They claim the bunker contains high-ranking government officials and military commanders who are planning counterattacks. The rebels say they want to surrender these leaders to prevent pointless violence." Vex-Hi studied the message carefully. The humans providing this information seemed genuinely angry at their own leaders. They spoke about politicians who had failed them and military commanders who had abandoned their duty. It made sense that some humans would choose collaboration over resistance. "Very well. Take a squad and investigate this bunker." The mission was successful. Zephyrian soldiers found exactly what the human rebels had promised: a large underground facility filled with government officials and military officers. The humans surrendered immediately when the aliens arrived, offering no resistance. But when Vex-Hi reviewed the prisoner reports, another pattern became apparent. The captured officials were mostly low-ranking bureaucrats and junior officers. The real power holders, the people who would know Earth's deepest secrets and most advanced technologies, were still missing. "Sir, I have concerns about the human behavior," Captain Zilnex said during a private meeting. "Something feels wrong about how eager they are to help us." "What do you mean?" "Think about it, sir. We have conquered 43 worlds. Never have we seen a species surrender so completely and so quickly. Even the most peaceful civilizations showed some resistance. Some tried to negotiate or hide their valuables. But humans are actively helping us locate their own resources and populations." Vex-Hi had been having similar thoughts. Perhaps they are simply more practical than other species. "Maybe, sir. But I have been studying their history through their own records. These humans fought terrible wars among themselves for thousands of years. Their entertainment programs show them as violent and stubborn. Yet they gave up their entire planet in less than a day. Fear can make any species rational." "Yes, sir. But look at this." Zilnex activated a display showing statistics from the occupation. "The humans being processed are exactly the right mix of workers we need for our mining operations. Almost as if someone carefully selected who would be captured and who would escape." Vex-Hi looked at the numbers. Agricultural workers, factory laborers, construction crews, and basic medical personnel. Exactly the types of humans needed to support mining colonies. But missing were the researchers, engineers, advanced doctors, and technical specialists who would be needed to maintain Earth's complex infrastructure. "You think this is planned?" "I think we should be more careful, sir. Something about this situation does not feel right." That evening, Vex-Hi decided to conduct his own investigation. He visited one of the processing centers and personally interviewed several human prisoners. They all told similar stories about hiding in cellars and being found by human collaborators who convinced them to surrender rather than starve. But when he asked about Earth's missing populations, their answers were too consistent. Everyone claimed that the scientists and engineers had fled to remote locations or other countries. Everyone said the military leaders were cowards who abandoned their posts. Everyone insisted they knew nothing about advanced human technology or defense plans. The most disturbing moment came when he spoke with a young human female who worked at a farm. "What do you think of your government leaders?" Vex-Hi asked. "Oh, they are terrible," she replied cheerfully, "always making promises they cannot keep. I am actually glad you aliens are taking over. Maybe now we will have some real leadership for once." The response was so perfectly designed to make him feel confident that Vex-Hi felt his first real moment of doubt. No conquered species had ever expressed gratitude for invasion. Even species that surrendered quickly still showed fear or sadness about losing their freedom. But this human seemed genuinely happy about the occupation. "Are you not afraid of what will happen to you?" "Why should I be afraid?" she asked, tilting her head with innocent curiosity. "You aliens seem much more organized than our old government. I bet you will take better care of us than our politicians ever did." That night, Vex-High could not sleep. He kept thinking about the human's expression when she said she was glad to be conquered. There had been something in her eyes that did not match her words. Something that looked almost like amusement. For the first time since arriving at Earth, Fleet Commander Vex-High wondered if he was missing something important about these strange humans. 2 weeks after the invasion began, Fleet Commander Vex-High decided he needed answers. The human surrender was going too smoothly, and the missing populations were becoming a real problem for occupation planning. He ordered his interrogation specialists to bring him their most knowledgeable human prisoner for detailed questioning. They brought him Dr. Sarah Chen, who had been captured during a raid on a medical facility outside Los Angeles. According to her identification documents, she was a xenobiologist who studied alien life forms. Vex-High found it ironic that Earth had scientists studying alien biology before they had ever met actual aliens. Dr. Chen was a small woman with black hair and dark eyes. She sat calmly in the interrogation chair, showing no signs of fear or stress. In fact, she seemed almost relaxed, as if she were attending a professional meeting rather than being questioned by alien conquerors. "You study alien life forms," Vex-High began. "Yet your species has never encountered aliens before our arrival." "That is correct," Dr. Chen replied politely. "We have been preparing for first contact for many decades. Your species is actually quite similar to our theoretical models." "What theoretical models?" "Models of how intelligent alien life might evolve. We predicted that successful space-traveling species would likely be militaristic, organized, and efficient. We also predicted they would have advanced technology and would view other species as either allies or resources." Vex-High studied her carefully. She spoke as if discussing scientific data rather than the conquest of her own world. "And what did your models predict about how humans would respond to contact with such a species?" Dr. Chen smiled. It was not a nervous smile or a sad smile. It was the smile of someone who found a question amusing. "Our models suggested that direct military resistance would be futile against a technologically superior force, so we developed alternative strategies." "Alternative strategies?" "Oh yes. Humans are very good at adapting to situations where we cannot use direct force. We have had to do it many times throughout our history." "Explain." Dr. Chen leaned back in her chair, apparently happy to share information. "Well, humans have survived several extinction events. Ice ages that killed most life on our planet, plagues that reduced our population by 90%, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun for years. Each time, we learned to adapt rather than fight forces we could not defeat." "And how does this relate to our occupation?" "The same principles apply to dealing with alien invasion. When you cannot defeat an enemy through force, you must find other ways to achieve your goals." Vex-High felt a chill run down his spine. "What goals?" "Survival, of course, but also learning. You see, Commander Vex-High, humans are naturally curious about new forms of life. Your species represents an incredible opportunity for us to learn about alien psychology, technology, and social structures." "How do you know my name and rank?" Dr. Chen tilted her head. "Your communications are not as secure as you think they are. We have been monitoring your radio transmissions since you arrived in our solar system. Your language is actually quite similar to several Earth languages in its grammatical structure, so our computers were able to create translation programs fairly quickly." Vex-High stood up abruptly. "You have been spying on us?" "Spying is such an ugly word. We prefer to think of it as research. For example, we now know the names and personal details of every Zephyrian in your fleet. We know about your families back home, your military ranks, your food preferences, and your sleep schedules." "That is impossible. We have been here only 2 weeks. Commander, humans have been preparing for alien contact for much longer than you realize. We have had advanced computer systems and monitoring equipment ready for decades. The moment your ships appeared on our sensors, we began collecting data. Vex-High sat back down heavily. Why are you telling me this? Because we want you to understand the situation you are in. You see, Commander, humans do not fight wars the way other species do. We have studied your history through your own databases, and we learned that most alien species fight wars to gain territory or resources. They win by killing their enemies or forcing them to surrender. Yes, that is the natural way. But humans are different. We fight wars to change our enemies. We fight to make them become something different than what they were before. Death is actually something we consider a mercy. Dr. Chen stood up and walked to the small window in the interrogation room. Let me tell you about some of our historical figures. There was a man named Vlad who impaled his enemies on wooden spikes and let them die slowly over several days. There was a leader named Stalin, who killed millions of his own people through starvation and overwork. There was a group called Unit 731 that performed medical experiments on living prisoners. These sound like war crimes. By most standards, yes. But humans teach these stories to our children as part of their regular education. Every human child learns about the worst things our species has ever done to each other. We study torture, genocide, and psychological warfare as academic subjects. Vex-High felt his blood growing cold. Why? So we know how to use these techniques when necessary. You see, Commander, the humans you have captured so far are not random civilians. They are volunteers who agreed to be processed so they could study your methods and psychology. Every person in your prison camps is gathering intelligence about Zephyrian behavior. That is impossible. Is it? Have you noticed that your prisoners seem unusually calm and cooperative? Have you wondered why human resistance groups keep helping you find hidden populations? Have you questioned why our surrender was so complete and so fast? Dr. Chen turned back to face him. We have been playing a role, Commander. Acting like the primitive, fearful species you expected to find. And while we performed this act, we have been learning everything there is to know about you and your people. Vex-High's hands were shaking. What do you want? Right now, we want to continue learning. Your species is fascinating. We are particularly interested in your social structures and decision-making processes. We have learned so much already about how Zephyrians respond to stress, how you organize your military hierarchy, and how you interact with conquered populations. You are studying us like laboratory animals. Yes, exactly. Except laboratory animals usually do not realize they are being studied. Dr. Chen walked back to her chair and sat down. Commander, I need to explain something important to you. Humans have never fought a war to gain territory or resources. We fight wars to break our enemies so completely that surrender becomes preferable to existence. We fight to change the fundamental nature of our opponents. And what are you trying to change us into? We have not decided yet. That depends on how interesting you prove to be as research subjects. But I can tell you this. Death is a mercy that humans reserve for opponents we respect. You should be very concerned about what we do to enemies we find. Educational. Vex-High stared at the small human woman who had just explained that his entire invasion force was being treated as a research project. For the first time in his military career, he felt true fear. What happens now? He asked. Dr. Chen smiled again. Now the real experiment begins. The change began 3 days after Vex-High's conversation with Dr. Chen. It started small, so small that he almost missed it. Vex-High woke up in his quarters to find his personal belongings rearranged. His combat awards were lined up differently on his desk. His spare uniforms were folded in a new pattern. His private journal had been moved exactly 3 centimeters to the left. Nothing was missing. Nothing was damaged. But someone had been in his locked quarters while he slept, and they had touched his most personal possessions. Captain Zilnex, report to my quarters immediately, he commanded through his communicator. When his second-in-command arrived, Vex-High showed him the changes. How is this possible? My door was locked. The guards were posted. No alarms were triggered. Captain Zilnex examined the room carefully. Sir, our security systems show no breaches. According to all our records, no one entered your quarters last night except you. Then how do you explain this? I cannot, sir. That same day, Similar reports came in from throughout the fleet. Officers found their personal items moved. Food in the mess halls tasted slightly different than usual. Equipment that had been working perfectly the day before needed minor adjustments. But the real psychological impact began when the broadcasts started. Every screen on every Zephyrian ship suddenly displayed a human face. It was an elderly man with white hair and gentle eyes, sitting in what appeared to be a comfortable library. "Good morning, soldiers of the Zephyrian hegemony," the man said in perfect Zephyrian language. "My name is Dr. Robert Martinez, and I am a human psychologist. I hope you are all feeling well today." Vex High rushed to the communications center. "Shut off these broadcasts immediately. Sir, we cannot locate the source. The signal is somehow bypassing all our security systems." Dr. Martinez continued speaking calmly. "I want to take a moment to talk about some of you individually. Commander Vex High, I hope you slept well last night. I noticed from your biometric readings that your heart rate was elevated. Stress can be very harmful to Zephyrian health." Vex's High felt his blood freeze. The human had access to his personal medical data. "Captain Zilnex, your mother sent you a message last week asking about your safety. She mentioned that your youngest sibling just started military academy. You must be very proud." Zilnex staggered backward. His correspondence with his family was encrypted and sent through secure military channels. "Sergeant Kolvar, stationed on Landing Ship 7, I see that you have been having trouble sleeping since arriving at Earth. Perhaps you should try the meditation techniques your mate suggested in her last personal communication." The broadcast continued for 20 minutes, with Dr. Martinez mentioning specific details about dozens of individual Zephyrians, personal communications with family members, private medical information, individual behavioral patterns that had been recorded and analyzed. When it ended, the fleet was in chaos. "Sir, how do they know these things?" Captain Zilnex asked, his voice shaking. "I do not know. But we need to change all our communication codes immediately." "Already done, sir. But I do not think it will help." Zilnex was right. The next day brought new broadcasts, this time showing live video feeds of Zephyrian soldiers going about their daily routines. The humans had somehow placed cameras throughout the ships, recording everything. Here we see Corporal Vexitin eating his breakfast. A cheerful human voice narrated as the screen showed a young Zephyrian soldier in the mess hall. Notice how he always eats his protein portions first, then his vegetables. This is consistent with Zephyrian cultural preferences for nutritional hierarchy. The video switched to show another soldier. Private Nick Satal is currently reading a letter from his offspring. See how his gill slits flutter when he reads emotional content? This indicates strong family bonds, which is typical of Zephyrian social structure. Every Zephyrian in the fleet realized they were being watched constantly. Their most private moments were being observed and analyzed by human researchers, but somehow, the humans never showed anything embarrassing or humiliating. They treated their subjects with clinical respect, like scientists studying interesting animals. The psychological pressure became unbearable when the humans began returning captured Zephyrian scouts. 3 soldiers who had been taken prisoner during a routine patrol were released back to the fleet. They were physically unharmed and mentally alert. They remembered everything about their capture and imprisonment, but something was wrong with them. "Report your status," Vex High commanded when the 3 were brought to him. "Sir, we are completely functional," the lead scout replied. "The humans treated us very well. They provided excellent medical care, comfortable quarters, and regular meals. They asked us many questions about Zephyrian culture and biology, which we answered honestly." "Why did you cooperate with them?" "Because they were very polite, sir. And because resistance seemed pointless. They demonstrated that they could kill us at any time, but chose not to." Vex High studied the soldier carefully. "Are you prepared to return to combat duty?" "Sir, I find myself unable to engage in violent actions." "Not unwilling, sir, but physically unable. When I attempt to activate weapons or plan aggressive strategies, my nervous system experiences what the humans called intervention protocols." "What does that mean?" "The humans modified our brain chemistry while we were unconscious. They explained that they had removed our ability to harm other sentient beings, but left everything else intact. We can still think clearly, follow orders, and perform all non-violent duties. Captain Zilnek stepped forward. They changed your minds? Yes, sir, and they showed us detailed brain scans of the procedure. They explained exactly what they had done and why. They said it was more humane than execution, and more useful than permanent imprisonment. The returned soldiers were examined by Zephyrian medical specialists, who confirmed the impossible. The humans had performed precise neurological surgery without leaving any visible signs of the operation. They had removed the soldiers' capacity for violence while leaving their personalities and memories completely intact. Sir, one of the returned scouts said quietly, the humans wanted us to deliver a message. What message? They said to tell you that this is what they do to enemies they want to study. They said that death is reserved for enemies they respect. That night, Vexhai called an emergency meeting with his senior officers. The conference room was filled with nervous, exhausted Zephyrians, who jumped at every small sound. Sir, the crew is falling apart, Captain Zilnex reported. Half of them are afraid to sleep because they know they are being watched. The other half are afraid they will be captured and returned with their minds changed. What are our options? We could try to evacuate the fleet. And go where? The humans have demonstrated that they can monitor our communications and track our movements. Do you think they would simply allow us to leave? Sir, another officer spoke up, maybe we should consider that the humans are not our enemies. What do you mean? They could have killed us at any time. Instead, they are studying us. They have shown us advanced medical technology and peaceful conflict resolution. Perhaps they are trying to teach us something. Vexhai stared at his officer in horror. The humans were not just changing the minds of their prisoners. They were changing the attitudes of his entire crew. They were making the Zephyrians grateful for their own defeat. Sir, Captain Zilnek said quietly, I think we need to request a meeting with human leadership. As much as he hated to admit it, Vexhai knew his second-in-command was right. The war was already over. The humans had won, without firing a single shot. The only question now was what they intended to do with their victory. Fleet Commander Vexhai stood in the shuttle bay, waiting to meet with human leadership. He had requested formal surrender negotiations, expecting to face military commanders or government officials. Instead, the humans had sent a single person to meet with him. She was a young woman, maybe 30 Earth years old, with brown hair and kind eyes. She wore simple civilian clothes and carried a small tablet computer. She looked more like a teacher than a diplomat. Commander Vexhai, she said with a warm smile, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. My name is Emma Rodriguez. I am a child psychologist, and I have been assigned as humanities ambassador to your forces. Vexhai did not take her hand. A child psychologist? Where are your military leaders? Oh, they are very busy with other projects. Don't worry, I have full authority to speak for our species in this matter. Emma looked around the shuttle bay with apparent interest. This is a beautiful ship. Our engineers are quite impressed with Zephyrian technology. You want to discuss surrender terms? Actually, no. The war ended several weeks ago. I am here to discuss your graduation ceremony. Graduation? Emma nodded cheerfully. Yes. You see, Commander, humans do not think of conflict as warfare. We think of it as education. Every species we encounter becomes an opportunity for learning, both for us and for them. She activated her tablet and showed him a complex diagram. This is a psychological profile of your entire fleet. We have been studying Zephyrian behavior patterns, social hierarchies, decision-making processes, and stress responses. You have all been excellent research subjects. Vexhai stared at the screen. It showed detailed analysis of every Zephyrian in his fleet, including personal psychological evaluations and behavioral predictions. What do you want from us? We want you to succeed as a species. Right now, your civilization is trapped in a cycle of conquest and domination. You expand by destroying or enslaving other cultures. This is not sustainable in the long term. Emma walked over to a viewport and looked out at Earth. Humans went through a similar phase in our development. We spent thousands of years fighting wars over territory and resources. But we learned that there are better ways to grow as a species. And you are going to teach us these better ways? We already have. The education process began the moment you arrived in our solar system. Every interaction you have had with humans has been designed to help you understand new possibilities for Zephyrian society. She turned back to face him. For example, you have learned that it is possible to resolve conflicts without violence. You have seen how cooperation can be more effective than domination. You have experienced what it feels like to be studied and analyzed rather than simply destroyed. You made us into laboratory animals. We made you into students. There is a difference. Emma's voice remained gentle but firm. Tell me, Commander, what have you learned about humans during your time here? Vex High thought carefully before answering. I have learned that humans are more dangerous than any species we have ever encountered. You fight wars not to gain territory, but to change the fundamental nature of your enemies. Exactly. And what else? I have learned that you have technology far beyond what we expected. Your ability to monitor communications, infiltrate secure systems, and perform precise medical procedures suggests a civilization much more advanced than your old radio signals indicated. Very good. What else? Vexai hesitated, then continued. I have learned that humans treat conflict as an opportunity for research and education, rather than simple domination. Emma smiled. Excellent. You see, you have already learned the most important lesson we wanted to teach you. The question now is what you will do with this knowledge. She activated her tablet again and showed him another screen. Your fleet is welcome to leave Earth at any time. We will not prevent your departure. However, you should know what you will be taking with you. The screen showed a list of data files, complete psychological profiles of every Zephyrian in your fleet, detailed analysis of your military tactics and decision-making processes, comprehensive understanding of your species' social pressure points and cultural weaknesses. You are threatening to use this information against us? No, Commander. We are giving you this information to take back to your people. We want the Zephyrian hegemony to understand exactly what happened here. Emma walked closer to him. We have also taken the liberty of upgrading your technology. Your ships are now 30% more efficient. Your weapons are more precise. Your life support systems have been improved. Your medical equipment has been enhanced with human innovations. Why would you help us? Because we want you to succeed. But there is one important modification you should know about. All of your upgraded systems include built-in safeguards that prevent them from being used against species that exhibit specific behavioral patterns. What behavioral patterns? Curiosity over aggression, cooperation over domination, education over destruction. If you encounter a species that demonstrates these traits, your weapons will not function against them. Vex's High understood. You have programmed our technology to protect species like humans. We have programmed your technology to protect species that are trying to grow beyond their primitive phases of development, just as we hope the Zephyrians will grow beyond theirs. Emma put away her tablet and looked at him with genuine warmth. Commander, this does not have to be the end of contact between our species. We would be very interested in continued cultural exchange. Perhaps some of your scientists would like to study human society. Perhaps some of our researchers could visit Zephyrian worlds. You want to send human researchers to our home planets? Only if you would like that. We believe that mutual study and cooperation produces better results than conquest and domination. But the choice is yours. Vex High realized that he was being offered something no defeated commander in hegemony history had ever received. Genuine partnership instead of destruction or humiliation. What happens to my soldiers who were modified? They will be fine. The neurological changes we made are not permanent. If they choose, they can have the modifications reversed after a period of psychological counseling. We wanted them to experience what peaceful cooperation feels like before making their final decision about their future. And if they choose to keep the modifications, then they will become ambassadors between our species, Zephyrians who understand both the old way of thinking and the new possibilities. Emma walked toward the shuttle bay exit. Take your time deciding, Commander. This is a lot of information to process. But remember, this is not a defeat. This is graduation. 3 months later, Fleet Commander Vex High stood on the bridge of his flagship as it prepared to depart Earth's solar system. Half of his crew had chosen to remain on Earth to study human society. A dozen human researchers had joined his fleet to observe Zephyrian culture. The Hegemony High Command had received his full report about Earth and had made a remarkable decision. Instead of planning revenge or future attacks, they had requested formal diplomatic relations with humanity. The humans had agreed, on the condition that Zephyrian society begin transitioning from conquest-based expansion to cooperation-based growth. "Sir," Captain Zilnex reported, "we are receiving a farewell message from Earth." The main screen showed Dr. Sarah Chen, the xenobiologist who had first explained human warfare philosophy to Vex High. She was sitting in what appeared to be a research laboratory, surrounded by equipment for studying alien biology. "Safe travels, Commander Vex High," she said with a genuine smile. "We have greatly enjoyed our time together. Your species has taught us much about alien psychology and social structures. We hope this is the beginning of a long and educational relationship between our peoples." The screen switched to show Emma Rodriguez, standing in a classroom filled with young humans who appeared to be taking notes. "These are some of our graduate students in xenopsychology," Emma explained. "They have been studying the data we collected during your visit. Several of them are very interested in writing their dissertations about Zephyrian social adaptation patterns." She looked directly at the camera. "Commander, you and your crew have become humanity's first successful case study in peaceful species integration. We are very proud of your progress." As the screen went dark, Vex High realized that he felt proud as well. For the first time in his military career, he was returning from a mission not as a conqueror, but as a student who had learned valuable lessons. The human approach to conflict had changed not just Zephyrian technology, but Zephyrian thinking. They had discovered there were things more powerful than weapons, more effective than fear, and more lasting than conquest. They had learned that education was the ultimate weapon, and that the best victories came from turning enemies into friends. As his ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Vex High began planning how to share these lessons with the rest of his species. The Zephyrian hegemony was about to become something entirely new, and he was eager to be part of that transformation. Behind him, Earth continued its slow rotation, a small blue planet that had just demonstrated to the galaxy that there were things far worse than death. Being changed so completely that you remembered exactly who you used to be, while being grateful for who you had become.